It was all his fault. I'll tell you that. I've just got to get myself out of trouble, just in case my wife is listening. We're wired and tapped, aren't we, all the time? So when we set up the conference, the important thing was that we surround ourselves with people who know more than we do, right? I always try to be the most stupid person in the room, and as you can probably already tell, it's not difficult for me to do that. So we have people like Dan and like the speakers that you've heard from this morning and those that you'll hear from this afternoon that are experts in their field. We've got fantastic exhibitors out there, and the reason that they're here, the reason that we have them with us is because they're experts. And I try and learn as much as I possibly can from them. The way that my mind works, I don't know whether yours is the same, but I like bite-sized pieces of information. I'm not very good at taking huge amounts of information in, but I'm also not interested specifically in tons and tons of detail. That's just not the way that I work. So my session here, and I've probably been a bit optimistic, I've specifically said that I'm going to give you 15 actionable tips in 30 minutes. So that's like 2 minutes a slide, and I do have a tendency to waffle. So we'll try and get through it as quickly as we possibly can. And with that in mind, okay. I'll dive straight in. When we work with any of our clients, one of the things that we start with is asking them whether they've got a business plan in place. And I'm not talking about the sort of business plan that you'd give to a bank for corporate finance. I'm specifically looking for 5 things, 5 key objectives that business is working towards. That might be a turnover target, number of clients that you want to see a week, websites, traffic, statistics, but something that's measurable and something that you can achieve. My first tip for you is, if you don't have that yet, if you don't have a written business plan or key objectives, I'd certainly note some down. If you write them down, you're more likely to achieve them as well. And if you share them, you're even more likely to achieve them. So those objectives, like I say, 5 key objectives, make sure that they're all measurable. Hours were, when I started the business, changed. We pivoted quite quickly. I went on holiday with my wife. She's a wonderful lady. You've met her this morning. She was on the reception desk. She's a wonderful lady. But she shouted at me when I spent most of our holiday on my laptop working. Very shortly afterwards, we were blessed then. Ross joined the business to alleviate some of the pressure. Very quickly we grew again. Callum joined us in January, and we've got a fantastic team. So our business objectives changed, but we keep them under close monitoring, so to speak. But they're all measurable, and I'd encourage you to have the same thing. Tip number 2, a follow-on from what MJ was talking about this morning with our digital footprint is to optimize your website. The actual tip there, it's easy for me to say just optimize your website, but what I'm actually looking for there is to create as much content as you possibly can. There's an American marketeer called Marcus Sheridan, used to sell swimming pools. And he wrote a book called They Ask, You Answer. And the principle is really simple. I'll ruin the book for you. You don't have to buy it or listen to it anymore. The principle is you provide as much content as you possibly can, and you provide all the answers to your prospects' questions so that when they do contact you, they're motivated purchasers. We implement the same principles within our own websites. So you'll note that we've got blogs, you'll note that we've got YouTube channels, you'll note that we create lots of content, and then we stick it on our social channels. We're creating a bigger digital footprint, and we're optimizing our website at the same time. So blog content, bless you, Alex. Blog content, video content, and expand your website functionality. So that's the next tip. So speak to your web developer if you've not got a blog up. They're really simple to set up. Shouldn't take them more than 15 minutes. Probably shouldn't say that. But it's really simple to set up a blog, and then just update it. Probably 1 new blog a week. And then MJ talked about H1 tags and header tags, basically. So when you're writing a blog, you'll be putting, I'm going over my 2 minutes on this slide, aren't I? You'll be putting key terms, basically. So a title for the blog and then a subtitle. I just break the blog article up with that using those header tags. And that's the simplest way to optimize your website. And you mentioned ChatGPT as well. We love it. It's a fantastic tool to give you ideas for blogs if you haven't already, to help you with a framework for writing those blogs, and to save you tons and tons of time. The more you put in, the better content that you'll get out. And if you don't have time for that, we've got 2 different copywriters in the room. We've got the creative pair. We've got Jodie at the back, and I'm sure you'd be more than happy to help with that website optimization piece, right? So speak to people and surround yourself with people who know more than you do. Tip number 3, start creating content today. There was a quote, and forgive me, I'm not very good at quotes, but I'm pretty sure the quote said, the best time to plant a tree was 20 years ago. The next best time is now. And that principle applies when we're talking about creating content. Life is all consuming, right? I've got 2 kids, and I spend as much time as I possibly can with them, and therefore some things slip by the wayside. But I always find time to create content normally. So you'll see LinkedIn posts go out, and typically speaking, I don't post those live, except for the ones today. Everything's scheduled. But I know that I have to do that post, and I also probably shouldn't say this as an owner of a marketing agency, but I'm not a massive fan of social media. It serves a purpose, right? I had a rant on socials yesterday because lots of people want to sell to you, right? You go to a networking event and people want to sell to you. They don't go to purchase anything, they go to sell. So instead, what I do, my strategy when I'm creating content is, number one, I try to be personable and engaging. Whether that comes across or not, I'll let you decide. But I got lots of content out there. Lots of it will be based on social proofing, the principle whereby we tell people we're good at what we're doing and then we prove it. So putting testimonials and things live. We want to please the algorithm, whatever platform we're on. And the way that we can do that, typically speaking at the minute, is by using video content. If there's a social media, if there's a tool that's added to social media, chances are the algorithms are weighted in favor of it. So start to use it. It was the same when Reels went live on Instagram, for example. So if there's a tool on socials, typically speaking, it'll be video based, but use it. It will be more likely to stop the scroll. And obviously, we've all got a smartphone, right? We're not looking for perfection when we're creating video content. We're just looking to create content that's relevant and engaging. And if we can do that 3 to 5 times a week, you'll be laughing. You'll start to see the results of it. You'll start to see engagement go up. You'll start to, if you're adding value, you'll start to see followers increase and things as well. So, and using the tools that Mike mentioned earlier on will make your life tons easier as well. It was interesting, Mike, that you talked about the fact that you schedule those posts. So those LinkedIn lives aren't live, right? Yeah. But it's easier that way, but you've got plenty of content going out. So start creating content and start today. So start engaging with people online. Some of the easiest content to do is I had a conversation with so-and-so the other day and I found it really engaging. I learned X, Y, Z from them. That's a piece of content, right? But it also shows that you're engaging. People will start to see it. We know on LinkedIn, for example, you've got first, second and thirds in terms of connections. You can expand your followers and expand the amount of people that see a post by getting engagement on it. And that won't happen until we start creating content. So tip number 4, going for awards. I'm biased, obviously. We've created an awards ceremony. But what we've seen with our own clients is that the more awards that they go in for, I mean, the more chance you've got of winning them, of course, but the better digital footprint that they've got, because you'll have backlinks from websites if you get shortlisted, which is great for SEO. It shows that you're good at what you're talking about because you've been shortlisted for an award. And at the same time, obviously, we get that, is it the dopamine hit of being shortlisted and hopefully winning awards. So go in for as many as you possibly can. And certainly the free ones, I'd certainly encourage it. And where possible, win them. One thing, having been a judge on a few awards and having set up our own, the one thing that I know our judges are looking for, and when I'm a judge, I'm looking for is statistics. I want proof. I want that social proofing element. So just make sure that when you're writing your submissions, you've got that social proofing element in place. Tip number 5, implement email marketing. There's 200, and there's other marketers in the room, so I'm looking for guidance here, but there's over 250 types of marketing out there, am I right? And I don't profess to know everything about every single one of them. We typically work on 5 or 6 different types of marketing at any given point. But one that's particularly useful is email marketing. And there's loads of trends within email marketing. So you could start to send out blanket campaigns. You could start to use email funnels. You could use just a nice, simple introduction email. So email marketing, I'm not specifically talking about you grab a ton of data and start sending out campaigns. It could just be a single email to a single person, but it's marketing, right? It's about communication. I appreciate I'm probably teaching you to suck eggs here when I say that marketing's all encompassing. It's about brand, it's about communication, it's about the people element. But when we really drill down, we've got those 5 objectives that we're working towards, and we can work backwards from that. We know what we want to achieve, we know how we want to do it, and therefore an email campaign, how do we get that email campaign specifically to help us hit one of those objectives? Free platforms, so you could use MailChimp for email campaigns. You can do something like Constant Contact. Our CRM system, Zoho, we've got an inbuilt email campaign manager within our CRM system. But I certainly think you should start using that and implement your email marketing sooner rather than later. If you're creating content for your website, you've got your content for your email marketing campaigns already. Tip 6, Collect and demonstrate testimonials. There's been a couple of discussions this morning about that social proofing bit, about on LinkedIn, and both MJ and Mike suggested that you could add widgets to your website which display those testimonials. I'm terrible at statistics, right? But people will know, like, and trust you. It's easier for people to know, like, and trust you if they can see that somebody else knows, likes, and trusts you. We use a herd mentality. So if somebody can see that they've used your services, they're more likely to trust you. And the easiest way to do that is by getting testimonials. Now, I'm inclined to say get Google reviews, but with these widgets, it doesn't necessarily matter as long as they're visible online. Well, we know that 93% of web traffic goes through Google, so therefore Google theoretically would be my platform to go and get your reviews on. But just collect them. Obviously with Google, you know that if you go onto your Google business profile, there's a little button that says copy for your review link, and then you can just embed that into an email campaign. You could put it at the bottom of your email signature. You could send it out to some of your connections on LinkedIn, but start to collect those reviews. Where possible, space them out. Again, algorithms, right? So Google doesn't want to see 10, 15 reviews in one day. Looks a little bit suspect. So try and spread them out if you possibly can. And also, a little bit of market research. Have a look at how many reviews your closest geographic competitor, for example, has got. And then you want more than them. Goes without saying, right? So start to collect those reviews. If you've got clients who are particularly amenable to it, I would encourage you to get video testimonials as well and embed those on the website. It's more likely to stop the scroll if you share something like that on socials than just having a still image. So, but of course we still want those Google reviews. Google doesn't yet have the functionality, as far as I'm aware, to be able to embed that video testimonial into the Google review. So you're asking for 2 reviews basically. Tip number 7, host webinars and workshops. There's a principle that we implement called own the asset. So I can say, yes, Tom?
Tip 7 is missing from your book.
Is it? Yeah. No tip 7? Apologies. Well, tip 7 is host webinars and workshops. Owning the asset is a principle that we talk about. My wife, I'm pretty sure she's gone now, so I can say this. She's a wonderful woman, but she describes me as socially awkward. Well, I hope that's not coming across, but what she means is that if I go to a networking event, and I've already told you that people go to a networking event to sell, not to buy, I hate them. I shouldn't. I don't like the awkwardness of going and having to pitch for business. I much prefer it by building relationships, as I'm sure you all do. So I avoid networking traditionally, and my thinking on it is I like a beer, as Dan's alluded to. So my thinking was, well, why not build the relationships with people, which will hopefully invite business at some point, and if not, I'll be able to articulate what whoever it is I'm meeting does to my contacts, but do it in a format and a setting that I feel comfortable with. And it wasn't necessarily a beer networking meeting that I was aware of in Lincoln, so I thought, well, we'll set one up, we'll own it, and we get, I think, David, how many people have we got coming to the next one? It's an open invite, by the way, you're all welcome. We must have 30 something people. Okay, well, we must have 30 odd people coming to it now, and it's growing, but it's nice and relaxed and informal, and that's what works for me. But it's something that we host, right? The reason we set up a conference is because when people book onto, yes, Dan?
Sorry, when did the invites go out there? Because I haven't had one.
It was on the WhatsApp group that you're a part of, so there's no excuse. It's all right. So when we set this conference up, I don't mind sharing our sort of secrets, if you like. When we set it up, the reason that we did it was because we put a booking form, and on that booking form we capture your information, so we got your email address and we get your telephone number, for example. Well, that's data harvesting, right? We collect that data so that we can use it for future marketing campaigns. But we own the asset. That's the point, and that information then goes into our CRM system. So, tip 8, is this in the book, Tom? Tip 8?
Yeah.
Perfect. Great news. Utilise and encourage user-generated content. That's the video piece I told you about before. So people will trust that better than you sharing a tip on whatever it is that you do, barbering, mortgages, whatever it is. So, but if you can then start to share that user-generated content, people will engage. Not only that, but if you share something that somebody else has created and provided, realistically or theoretically, they're going to share it too, because it's theirs, they own it, right? And then you'll get the benefit of their audience. So that was that firsts and seconds thing I was talking about with regards to LinkedIn. Principle applies to Facebook as well. So where possible, utilize and encourage user-generated content. Get your clients, get people that you're associated with to start talking about you, what you do, and make sure that they can articulate that to their followers. How are we doing time? Smashing it. Tip number 9. Use your CRM system. So we're all aware that a CRM system is a client relationship management system or a customer management system. And it's okay if your CRM system is an Excel spreadsheet or something like that. MJ's saying it's not, and obviously he's a systems guy. If you need a CRM system, he's your man. He set up our CRM system for us. But your CRM system should be the lifeblood of your business. We use a principle called Build to Sell. So there's a book by John Warrillow called Built to Sell. And ironically, he built a marketing agency, a digital agency, and then sold it. But the principle is you build to sell. So, and I would encourage you to apply that or to use that principle within your own business, regardless of not whether your intention is to sell the business in 10 years' time or not. But and in it, and without it, without a CRM system, that principle wouldn't work, that build to sell principle. The idea being that we put as much information and that data that we're harvesting into our CRM system as possible, and we utilize the functionality within that CRM system, so email marketing campaigns, segmenting lists, reminder functionality, that sort of stuff, to be able to help us run our business more efficiently. So if you've not got a CRM system, the tip is to set up a CRM system and speak to MJ, who will be able to support you on that, I'm sure. And if you do have a CRM system, make sure that you're utilizing the functionality within it. There'll be tons of YouTube videos which will show you some of that functionality and how it all works. Tip number 10, I've already done this one, it's owning the asset, right? It's super important though. So Jodie and I at the back, we're setting up a quiz team, aren't we? Because there's no quizzes no quiz teams that we're aware that we can just go and join, but we like a quiz. Dean, you're being roped into that, by the way. Have you? Perfect. So, but the principle is if you control it, and it sounds really sort of, I don't know, it sounds really dark, doesn't it? But controlling the asset, owning the asset, means that you've got the ability to choose who you invite or whatever the case may be. But you own the data. And if we're in any business, I would suggest that my business isn't marketing, strictly speaking, albeit it's a service we sell. We're in the data business. So the reason that our business will be attractive to a prospective purchaser in 10 years' time is because we own the asset and we're building data into it. And that data goes into our CRM system. And there's a big revolving wheel here that you should, hopefully, that you'll see. And that applies across multiple industries. Tip 11, experiment with new platforms. I've already told you about they're coming for me, excuse me. I've already told you about the fact that if there's a new feature being implemented on a social media platform, for example, you ought to start using it. Well, that principle applies. You've had 3 top tips from Mike this morning about video software that you could start to use. Obviously, the platform, if you've not got a CRM system, that's a platform that you should start to experiment with. But if there's something new that's out there and it's going to make your life easier, typically speaking, we want to use it, right? We want to spend as much time as possible on developing our business. I don't know if anybody's the same as me, but obviously time is a valuable resource for all of us, and there's a marketing principle called the small business marketing principle, and it provides that we invest time over expenditure. Lots of us are small businesses, we don't have huge budgets, right? Is that fair to say? So as a result, we want to do all of the things that we possibly can to make life easy for ourselves, which is why I schedule my LinkedIn content on a Sunday morning for the week. I want to do it as quickly as I possibly can, and I won't be able to do that without tools. So we use a scheduling tool for that, and we're constantly experimenting. So I'm not satisfied, strictly speaking, with that scheduling tool, so I'm always looking for new functionality, and we're blessed to have people like MJ who constantly he sends me a message and he'll be like, look at this, and then he'll send me a link to a new piece of software. But it's transformed our business, I'll be honest with you, and without tech and without kit like this, we would be a mundane, boring, inefficient marketing agency. So we start to experiment with these systems. We're supporting Andy at the moment with a leadership workshop using a new piece of technology for pre-recorded e-webinars. And it's little things like this that you've got to throw yourself into. I'd rather do something, try it, make sure it works, or tweak it, make sure it works, than not do it and not get the results from it. And it's all because we're using new platforms. Tip 12. Collaborate with micro-influencers. Obviously, we put the word micro in there because if we were to go out and say, does everyone know Mrs. Hinch? My wife talks about her all the time. Apparently she's fantastic. She's got loads of cleaning tips. Well, she would be really expensive to collaborate with, right? Have you guys done some work with Mrs. Hinch? There's a local agency that might have done.
Yes.
No. Yes.
Not me.
Oh, so I thought you had.
You had.
Oh, okay. So, but the point being that people collaborate with these influencers, right? But there's lots of people around you that have got an audience. And like I say, I surround myself with people who know more than I do. And typically speaking, those people have got an audience that I'd like to get in front of. So I collaborate with them where possible, which is why we work with MJ, who's got an agency, which is why we work with other people in the room. And we benefit then from their knowledge, from their audience, from their guidance, their skill, their wisdom, all of these things. So if you're not yet collaborating with local people, I would certainly encourage you to do that. And if they've got a bigger audience than you, even better. Tip 13, track lead sources and revenue scores. Your CRM system can help you do this, but ultimately, one of the easiest questions that you could ask somebody is, where did you find out about us, or where did you hear about us? We built it onto our web forms now, so that the question's asked, I don't have to then ask it myself, and then I just record it. One of our clients in the estate planning sector, the will writing sector, they get 78% of their business from Facebook. And we know that because we record that information, we track lead sources. And that's a really, really useful tool to be able to say, where can we allocate our resources? That suggested that we should spend between 10 and 15% of our marketing budget, of our revenue, on marketing. I don't believe in that. I try to spend as little as possible on marketing, and I try to do as much organically as I possibly can, using tech and solutions, right, to help. But as long as I know that what I'm doing is working, then I'm happy. If something's not working, I'll use A/B testing, for example, to try a new way to do it. I'll always experiment. You might have seen a LinkedIn post I did recently talking about how I will always experiment with new systems and solutions. And I'll be honest, not all of it works. I've done campaigns that I think, oh, this is genius, this is going to work, and they flopped. They've not worked as well as I'd hoped. And then I've had others where they didn't need any tweaking, and straight away, off the bat, we've had leads from it. So, but we know where it's come from. Tip 14. We're bang on time. This has never happened. Tip 14, allocate time to business development. So I use a tool called Calendly. I presume you've all heard of it. It's a booking link, so people can book directly into my calendar. And again, it saves that whole rigmarole of, when are you free? Oh, I can't do that time. What about this? I just say, if it's okay with you, would you like to book a mutually convenient time using this link? Then efficiency-wise, they can book in at time that suits them. I get a notification that they booked in. But one thing that they won't be able to do is book any time into my diary between 9 till 10 in the morning and 4 till 5. And that's because I use the morning session for an hour of business development every single morning. And then at the end of the day, 4 till 5, we utilise that time to make sure that we've followed up with everything that we've promised and said that we'll do. So that time for business development, I do religiously every single day. And we wouldn't have the business that we have if we didn't do it. So allocating that time to work on the business and not in it is absolutely vital. And I know that work can be all consuming, right? We always try to make sure that we're doing everything we possibly can for our clients and whatnot, but we also need to make sure that we're also filling that sales funnel so that we've got future work in the future, and that time for business development is vital. I also I do something called creative thinking time. I don't want to paint a picture where I'm just a massive beer drinker, but I go down the pub in a setting that I'm comfortable with. I'll have a beer, I'll take a pad with me, and then I'll use that opportunity to say, well, here's what I want to achieve, my 5 business objectives, right? Here's the marketing strategy that we're going to implement, and again, that's not anything comprehensive or complicated. It's, we want to hit X in turnover. We know that our average client acquisition value, or the average amount that a client will pay us a month, is X, Y, Z. Well, how many more clients do we need to be able to hit that target? And we work backwards. But that's because we do that. We allocate time for business development. Then, final tip. Build data. I've told you that you're in the business of data, so build data. That doesn't really tell you much, does it, when I say build data? But there's a few things that you can do. You could do something slightly, it's not unscrupulous necessarily, but it sounds it. You could scrape data. So you could basically go onto the World Wide Web and start finding GDPR compliant data to implement marketing campaigns with. You could start using LinkedIn messaging, using the video tool that Mike mentioned, and start building connections with people and collecting email addresses and things like that, and putting that information into your CRM system. Or you could just go to networking meetings and start getting business cards and things like that, all of which is data that you need to put into your CRM system. But all of it will help and develop your business longer term. The final thing I'll leave you with is the 6-touch strategy. And again, I'm probably teaching you all to suck eggs, or it's probably something I've said to you all individually at some point. But the 6-touch strategy basically provides that before anybody knows you, likes you, and trusts you enough to part with their hard-earned cash on your products or service, they need to know that you're trustworthy. The know, like and trust principle, it's used in BNI and everything. And the way that we do that is we get 6 touches in place, and that might be a recommendation from a friend, it might be an email marketing campaign, it might be that somebody's seen your post and shared it and therefore you've popped up on their social media feed, it might be a testimonial from a client that's been shared. All of these things are those 6 touches that we need to be able to grow our business. I provide a free hour of marketing to a week to a different business owner, and if anybody wants some guidance and support in terms of how to grow their business, we'll create you a marketing strategy. We'll look at those 5 business objectives and you'll have a roadmap basically as to where to go.